morning, Salaam alaikum, and Ramadan Kareem.
Oh, am I saying it right? Malaikum salam.
Bravo.
Oh,
yes,
I'm impressed with
excellent.
myself.
Yes.
Even the tonation I got, okay?
You're getting it right. Well done. So, Dr. Funke, we're very happy to have you here today at AFIS and to talk about Ramadan and the 12 Leadership Gemstone that now recently was launched. Before that, can you just introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Ghadeer, for having me. My name is Dr. Funke Bafour. It's a bit of a mouthful, but Funke, my parents are Nigerian, Bafour, my husband is Ghanaian, and my accent, I was born and raised in the UK. So I come with all these identities. So I trained as a clinical psychologist and practiced in the UK. And then 12 years ago, I decided to change the setting and work in education because I wanted to think about what would mental health look like in 12 years, 25 years. And it is based on what I perceive that we will have a rise in mental health challenges. So I wanted to be really intentional in helping schools to think about frameworks, interventions, and combine it with the educational curriculum. So that's me in a nutshell. But I'm very passionate about well-being, very passionate about values and character development.
It shows, and I'm passionate too. So we have this commonalities here. So tell us more about the launch of the 12 Leadership Gemstone. And this is something that will be across all the GEMS schools. And it's about the balance between values, character, leadership.
Yes.
It's something that we distribute across the 12 months. Tell us more about it and what was the driving force?
God, this is such a great question, Ghadeer. Now, the leadership gemstones, and we played with the concept of gemstones and we looked at gemstones and realized there's so much value in the concept of gemstones and why not utilize that with our setting? Now, we wanted to think about what values do our students need to be successful? And sometimes we say, okay, we have this value and that value, which is great, but we wanted to make it a structured approach into building character development and really connecting with who you are, because it's who you are that enables us to see how you connect with other people. And so we looked at the whole leadership value base around the world and initially we picked out 12 core values. But we wanted to really be contextual in our thinking and realize we're in the UAE and Ramadan is a very special time for anyone, not just people that are practicing, but I'm here in the UAE. I feel the vibe of Ramadan. It makes me excited. So we wanted to make sure that Ramadan doesn't get missed out.
Correct.
So we have, as you noticed, we've got 13 values instead of 12,
correct,
which is the Ramadan value, which is leading with purpose. So our values, basically, it could be leading with reflection, integrity, empathy, respect. Basically, the values that you need to be a successful human being, global citizen.
Yeah.
And this is what we wanted our young people, our students, to experience. And that's why we launched the Leadership Gemstones 2 months ago. And we're really excited about where it's actually going to go.
And it's very interesting to find Ramadan as one of the months, although it's not on the calendar we usually follow. Having it on such important document is great. Just to emphasize on the purpose, as you mentioned earlier, and as we say, it's a month of reflection, not only for Muslims, but you feel like people, I think they have more time, family time, and so on. So you mentioned that you are living now in the UAE and you can see the excitement, you're very inspired. What makes Ramadan special in the Arab world and specifically in the UAE?
I think my understanding of Ramadan, and I will give you a little bit of history. My father was a Muslim, my mum was a Catholic, so I had the ideas. We wasn't practicing in any way, but I have the idea of it. And my understanding about Ramadan is that it's beyond the fasting. When you speak to a layperson, they're like, oh, you're fasting for 30 days, you're going to have no food or drink. And it's like, that's just an element of it. My understanding of Ramadan is that it's a sense of deep reflection like you shared and really looking about the choices that you make, and a time to reflect on those choices and to become a better human being than what you are, because we can always improve. So I actually see Ramadan, when we say leading with purpose, always about improving yourself and improving yourself so that you can also be of service to others. So that's my understanding. But maybe you could add on and tell me the bits that I've missed out.
Yeah, it's as you mentioned, self-discipline is the key, and it's not about food or drink. It's we as Muslims usually we are self-disciplined when it comes to our religion, because if you look at it, fasting is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and if you go further, you will see that every day we have to pray 5 prayers, and if we go to the 5 prayers, before that we need to have certain practices, and of course we need to make sure that we are praying on time and so on. So in principle, all Muslims should be self-disciplined, because this is how it's our religion. When it comes to Ramadan in particular, it's about food. And this is the most difficult part, because you're saying that food, coffee, actually. I feel, for me, coffee
is a big one.
more than food. Food is important, definitely, but you feel like the coffee thing, the water, sometimes you feel thirsty. But if you go deep and you reflect the rationale of Ramadan and why we should stop food, just to have empathy with those who didn't have enough time, enough food, to do zakah, to help those who are in need in such important time of the year. At this time when Maghrib prayer is there, you feel like all the family are gathered in one place to eat together. Some families, they can't, whether because they're traveling, because of distance. Here in the UAE, the context is as well is where you have many expats, so
That's
you can see friends gathering together at this time. So it's a very important month as well to have the bonding with family members. And personally, I always see Ramadan as family. Of course, we do practice the religion. And I missed suhoor this morning. But, but if you think about it, I'm so disciplined when it comes. I need to wake up at 4 to drink my coffee, to read Quran, to pray Fajr on time. And then I start my day. And I start my day. I have the most focused time when I'm fasting. And I was telling you before the podcast, I did fasting in London in July.
Yeah.
And it was like 9:55
I know.
when I need to break the fasting. By the time I don't want to eat, I just need water. But I used to had I wrote my dissertation, my master dissertation. If you look at it, the best part was when I was fasting, because I wasn't distracted. It was a purpose, focused mind where you need to focus. So this is for me. It's like I practice my Islam, but also in Ramadan, I have time because usually, the pace of life is too fast because we leave earlier than normal. We work, but we have some more balanced, I would say, when it comes to family and religion.
And I can really relate to that, because we used to practice fasting in the Christian faith.
Yes.
And you are right. The things that I was able to produce was just magical. So my question to you, because you've just stated that you're doing your best work.
Yes.
You're really organized. And I think we think of Ramadan for 30 days, but how can we make it not just 30 days, but the way that we live? Because we know that during that time of fasting and prayer, you feel some enlightenment. So how can we tell people or share to go beyond that?
Yeah, it's about daily habits, I would say. So, for example, I'm just, because you asked me this question, usually before Ramadan, or if it's not Ramadan, I wake up for Fajr prayer, for example. So it's not because of but I wake up earlier now because I need just to take the coffee that I can't take it during the day, just to have some caffeine injection. But we don't live for food, and this is something that we need always to remember. And we had many examples around the world where we see that people are in need. So trying to help, reaching out to charity centers throughout the year, not necessarily only in Ramadan, help those who are in need. Some people, Muslims, they fast Mondays and Thursdays as part of Sunnah. I don't, but this is something that some people, they have it as the routine across the year. So, so many things. But I think maybe while we are praying the five prayers, and we should
Yes.
give it time.
Right.
Sometimes because of work, because of the, engagement with so many things, you feel like you need to rush, you need to
That's
rush, you rush.
right.
But in Ramadan, it's more like you have this peace where you need to have some time,
Yes.
and you need to again reflect, and you need just to think, am I doing the right thing now?
Yes.
Going back to focused mind, some people, unfortunately, they take a Ramadan as an advantage. I can't focus. I didn't eat this morning. I don't have coffee. Let's wait after Ramadan. No, it's the month for work. It's the month where you should show your best. You don't take fasting as an excuse. And this is what I tell the students always. I had a student in my office this morning, just telling him it's the best time of the year where you need to show your best. And it's not an excuse that I'm tired. No, come to school on time. Do your homework on time. Study, read, practice religion. You have enough and ample time to do so many things in one day. Other than that, usually so many distractions. You have social media outtakes going and so on. So this is it. This is how I think of it. If you look at it across the year,
this is amazing. And one of the things that comes to mind is, Gems, we have the family first, which is all about values. And how do you see that ties in with Ramadan?
It is, as I said earlier, Funke, Ramadan is family. So I remember once I moved to Dubai, long time back, and I was single, and I was so attached to my parents. So first day of Ramadan, I used to travel to sit on the table with them. This is something very important for us, and it's about family first. It is family first. Ramadan means family. So that's why we encourage families. For example, we are organizing for family iftar, community iftar in our school. We are having many initiatives to encourage family for charity work, even within the school. You can see boxes in the morning once you come in, where we are sharing some food and, things that certain important essential stuff with the charity, in collaboration with, of course, entities, governmental entities. So it's about family. It's about bonding with family.
I love that.
It's not about sitting on the same table and eating on the social media. It's about talking. How was your day today? Because if you compare the other days, we work, we leave 5, 6, we go home, everyone is eating alone because the time is different. Now it's discipline, where everybody is sitting at the same time, talking and eating and chatting and celebrating the holy month of Ramadan.
And I love what you said about bonding, because when it concerns family, you can sometimes see families sitting at the table and they've all got their phones in their hands, and just taking the time away to actually bond and connect. And I think,
the nature of the food on the table in Ramadan, oh my God, you can't. But just look at this. This is nice. This is delicious. Try this, try that. Variety, because, as per traditions, we need to start with the soup, then something called fattoush, I'm sure you know, and then sambusa or sambusa.
No, I haven't heard of sambusa.
You should try it.
What's sambusa?
This is something where you find inside cheese or meat or different cultures or different countries, they do it from different ways. And then we have the main dish, and then we have the atayef, which is a very important sweet in Ramadan. So the nature of the table makes people interaction and bonding.
And this is why because I can see the connections and the excitement that people are having with iftar. And I'm like, why can't we make this our lives? Because the world will be a better place because the missing thing that we have right now is connections.
Yes.
We have more people feeling lonely, disconnected. But if we just take the time to connect with our loved ones, and our chairman recently said it all starts with the family.
Absolutely.
And if you've got those family values, the connections, then when we're relating to other people, it's not a struggle. So how do you think we can bring back all these values back into the home?
I think this is a great initiative. This is number one. And I always remember our chairman talking about values before education. And this is,
Yes.
I agree, because whenever you are dealing with people, we adults, you don't judge me whether, where's my background, what is it? You judge me based on the way I interact with people, the way I respect others. And this is what we tell students. So if we want to do it, we need to speak all the same language. We need to value the family first. We need to value the values itself. We need to speak the same values.
That's right.
And I always say, regardless of our background, values are values. You need to say the truth. You should always respect people. You should always have whatever value, integrity. You always should say the truth. This is the language we speak, regardless of our background. So there is no debate about which values we should follow. It's the same. So if we speak all the same language, if we have under the umbrella of GEMS that we are GEMS, we know what we're doing, and this is the values we want to instill in our students. We are sure that those generations coming out of our schools, they will speak the same language and they will raise their families in the right way.
And I absolutely love what you've just said. And it brings me back to why we, when you said, well, what was the thinking behind the Leadership Gemstones? Is that what we want to see? Is that when students leave GEMS, there'll be just something about them that no other organization or other school can kind of put their finger on. And that's because we're instilling values. We had our jewels of kindness, those values. And Leadership Gemstones is just attached to that and taking it further. And just to think about, you have a child, I have a child, that they are growing up in a value-led education.
Absolutely.
That's all that matters, is our values and how we relate to other people.
And Funke, you mentioned something very important, that our graduates should be, when we look at them, that's because they're GEMS, of course. So it's not about which schools are we talking about.
Right.
It's about the GEMS identity.
Absolutely.
And I would say the GEMS DNA.
That's
It
right.
should go inside
That's
them.
right. And I love that, the GEMS DNA. And that DNA, for me, stands for how do we develop, how do we nurture, and how do we support children to achieve.
Yes.
Because it's so important that we take this value-led education further than what we're doing right now.
So I just want to ask you my question, because you took over, I think. I need now, it's my turn. I need to ask you this question, because we are sitting with a well-being person and it's based on research.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, but I feel some people are overusing the words, that this word is being used, I'm not feeling well, my well-being, or I don't want to teach, or the load is too high, or the students, the families, for example, or parents, they would come to us complaining, my daughter, my son, you're having too much homework, their well-being, and so on. What's your perspective based on research? Because I know this is important. I'm not underestimating the importance of well-being and mental health. This is crucial, especially with the technology, the strangers on the internet, and many. But how can we have this balanced understanding about this important thing for our children?
And you are asking a very valid question. So you think about 5-6 years ago, well-being wasn't quite there. Now, so we've created, and I'm saying we, not myself, but as the around the world, the kind of permission, or we've kind of instigated something that, what is well-being? And well-being is, we all want to feel well. We want to feel happy. In fact, for instance, it's not always about feeling happy. It's feeling a range of emotions and knowing how to self-regulate.
Yes.
So we're at that stage where it's becoming a common language. What we need to do now as the educators is educate our young people, our community, is that, well, what does well-being mean to you? And how to utilize what we're providing to boost your well-being. Now, you raise a really valid point, and research is showing that the overuse, the overdiagnosis of mental health, and why this may be happening. And what I'm saying is the overuse, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. And you won't know if you're depressed or anxious unless you've had a psychiatric assessment.
Absolutely.
So we need to make this very clear. No one should go on the internet and say, okay, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. No, unless you've gone through the right professionals and they give you the diagnosis, that's when the diagnosis sticks. Now, what can we do about that? We're in a very powerful position, shall I say, because we're educators. So within our educational system, we will provide tools that our young people can thrive, because they've got the other aspect, the social media. If you go onto these platforms, you just press and everyone says you've got these celebrities or these social media gurus. Well, this is what anxiety looks like. This is what depression looks like. I want to say pause, because some of that is misinformation and is leading people to self-diagnose and say, I've got anxiety, or it's because of my well-being, I cannot go to work, or I cannot do my work. We need to empower our young people to use it in the right way. I get very excited, and people are talking about their mental health and wanting to be mentally strong. That's exciting. We shouldn't shy away from that. What worries me is that there's this movement to self-diagnosis, looking on the internet and automatically saying, I've got ADHD, I'm on a continuum. All of these things that for some cases, it's been used in the wrong way. Yeah. But we as an education establishment, we now need to educate. And that's the way forward. So you have a valid point. But there is an exciting point in that we're talking about well-being. Yeah. We're talking about happiness. The UAE have got some fantastic policies in place. So that, for me, as a professional and passionate and advocate for mental health and well-being, it's exciting. Now we just need to rein it in and empower our young people so when they go on these social media platforms, they're like, no, I'm not going to self-diagnose myself. I've been educated to go step 1, step 2, step 3. So now it's our role to take in the reins.
You know, you mentioned a very important word, which I love, empower students. But because we mentioned about the overuse, going to the internet diagnosis, as you mentioned, do you think, or is there a research are we building or creating fragile characters out of the overuse of the word, out of ignorance, not because we are educated, I'm not saying but in some cases the overuse of the language at home, for example, does it affect the student's character without us noticing that what's happening? Suddenly he's not able to confront people or she's not. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't want us to go down the road about the overuse of the word, because we wouldn't probably say, are we overusing the term physical health? We would advocate because we're used to that concept. The mental health, we're still trying to get our minds around. For the layperson, it's like, well, I'm not using words. I don't like these words, but I'm not crazy. That automatically means that we need to help that person deconstruct that. Now, I'm not worried about the overuse of the concepts of mental health and well-being. What I'm worried about is that our young people are going down using the wrong routes to get that information. And it's our duty in terms of that as the educators, and also to be working in partnership with parents. Because partnership with parents is key. We cannot do anything, which is all about our family first, is that we bring the families in and we're working in alignment. Now, once we're working in alignment, it's very hard for the young person to go outside, because they know that we've created this space where, okay, that information, this is what we call about digital citizenship. Yeah. If you are a digital citizen person, shall I say, you will know that information is not correct. It's not backed by evidence. And that's what we need to do in our educational establishment. Excellent. But I don't want us to get worried about, are we overusing that? Are we overusing that? Educate ourselves about that. Because anxiety and depression is on the rise. Yeah. It's on the rise. And I can tell you now, in 5 years' time, it's still going to be on the rise. Oh my God. Because of the way the world is. I mean, look, there's so much conflict that our young people, what we've not seen, what our young people have seen. They've gone for a pandemic. I didn't go through that, and my parents didn't go through that. Correct. So imagine what that has done to their whole thinking process, plus what's going on around the world. So it's a confusing time for them. Now, if we don't give them the right tools to support them, then we are going to have the higher rate. Now, I am hoping that when we change a lot of the strategies that are in place and we empower our young people with the voice and choice and understanding mental health and well-being, that in 5 years' time, I will be wrong. We won't have a rise. Yeah. So that's the work that we have to do.
Yeah, and whenever we are talking about a curve, there is always transitioning time.
That's right.
So I think we are in this phase where it is now people are aware, they know what is well-being and the importance of mental health and all of this. But when we go to the where are we, we're still finding some
That's
people finding
right.
the way. So we'd always need more energy sometimes to educate, and then things will go in place for certain times.
I think you're absolutely right, Ghadeer. The key point is more education around it.
Yeah. And going back maybe about the children now and the world we're living in, I think, and personally, this is my personal opinion and perspective, that the students, they know more than they should in comparison to ours, because we didn't have so much access to internet. Whatever we need to know, we used to know it either from our parents or from the school or from the TV, certain limited time and very controlled. So if you look at us, how we were raised, we didn't have many information coming to our brain that we can't digest. Now I think it's too much information in their brains. TikTok, social media, am I depressed? Am I anxious? We didn't have these words our time, I believe.
We didn't, but let me say something. If our grandparents were here and they look at us as the children growing up, they would say, we didn't have as much information as what we had.
Oh, yeah.
So it's always that generation.
Of course, definitely.
Now, I like to look at things in the generation. So, you've got the generational X, millennium,
Alpha,
Gen Z, Alpha, Beta. So
I'm not asking you which generation, so
don't worry. I said, that's a secret. But I look at it in generational terms. Yes, our students right now have a lot of information. But those students that are not now 2 in 10 years' time, the information will be much more. With the emergence of AI, I know lots of people worry about it, but I think we are in that space to educate our students how to use it, rather than run away from it, because it's coming. When something's coming, you have to think, okay, how can we adapt? How can we adapt to what's coming and empower, like the word that we love, our students? So I don't look at it now, because I tell you one thing, our Gen Zs dislike when we say, when I was your age, I didn't have this. You guys have too much information. But what we need to do is try and imagine what it's like to be a Gen Z and Alpha. Try and get into that space, because it will really help us to understand their world, rather than our world looking into their world, because they look at us as old. As much as we don't want to hear that, they look at us, you guys don't get it. My daughter's always saying, Mummy, you just don't get it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not getting it. Let me get downstairs.
In addition to the words that they use, we don't understand.
We don't understand.
What was that?
I'm like, ooh.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So I think it's a time it's an exciting time. Because I think we focus so much on the negative, what's going on in the world.
Absolutely.
Where there's a lot of excitement.
The nature of people.
It's yes, I know. My role is like, oh God, let's not be negative. But it's an exciting time to be in, to see the emergence of the things that are coming, and how we can empower our young people to be those global citizens and represent GEMS education wherever they go in the world.
Absolutely. So talking about all of these things, for Muslims, we have, as we mentioned, like we are regarding Ramadan, we know that the way how our day goes when it comes to the Fajr, the morning till the evening. But for non-Muslims, how would they take this as an opportunity for family first, for the values, as we say, to talk to their children about values? We're not talking about anything specific. How do you find this as an opportunity?
Well, I mean, I'm glad that we've had this conversation. And I started off saying, look, I don't know much about Islam, just a little bit of growing up. And I told you my son's he converted to Islam.
MashaAllah.
So I've enjoyed this conversation, and I'm hoping viewers who are not Muslim will enjoy the conversation in how the principles, the values are values. Do you understand? They're values. They're basically telling us this is what it's like to be a good person.
Absolutely.
And I see that with Ramadan, and it's like all with Christianity, it's all with any. What does it mean to be a good person? And a good person means connecting with the people that matter. And family first is your family. As you said, your family are first before your friends. So how do you value? So our conversation now can be applied to anybody listening. Leading with purpose, leading with integrity, leading with empathy, self-discipline, making the right choices, giving to others. These are not that complicated. We as human beings make things complicated.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, like you said, now that you're doing the Ramadan or other people, you feel quite empowered.
Yes.
Because we're just going back to the basic principles of living and being a value-added member of society. So I think this can be applied.
Absolutely.
everywhere.
Absolutely. In one word, how would you describe Ramadan? One word after this discussion, a summary.
Oh God, it's so hard to put it in one word because I'm picking out. How would I describe? I think leading with purpose is that and doing are combined.
You know, I asked this question and I was reflecting, how do I see Ramadan? I would say investment.
Oh, I love that.
Investment in family, in time, in thoughts, in
Yes.
work, everything. So that
That's
came
really
to me. You inspired me.
Yeah, but
Funke.
I love that because investment, because it is really, isn't it? I love it. Oh, Ghadeer, we could talk about this.
Yes. Dr. Funke, thank you so much for your time.
thank
It's
you.
a pleasure having you here
Yeah.
today. I enjoyed the conversation and maybe later we can talk about different topics as well.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Ramadan
much.
Kareem. Thank you. Allah Akram.
I
Thank
think
you.
I got it a little bit. I got the first bit.